Coming up on Arirang News, South Korea again reports almost 700 cases of COVID-19, close to the highest number since the start of the pandemic. The authorities have warned of even higher case numbers in the days to come, which could mean more restrictions. Data suggests a growing number of South Korean newlywed couples are finding that home ownership is out of reach. Fewer are buying homes, and those who do are borrowing more. And South Korean lawmakers pass a bill to give small and medium-sized businesses more flexibility when they have to adopt the new 52-hour work week starting next month. It's 5 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for tuning in to Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. South Korea reported almost 700 new COVID-19 cases for the second straight day on Thursday, most of them in the greater Seoul region. To improve testing, the government will have around 150 temporary testing facilities set up in and around the capital. Kim Jae-hee reports.
South Korea on Thursday reported 682 new cases of COVID-19. It marks the second day in a row that the number has been close to 700. Of the new cases Thursday, 646 were locally transmitted, with 489 from Seoul, Incheon, and Gyeonggi-do province. These include cluster infections at restaurants, bars, singing classes, marketplaces, as well as medical institutions and nursing homes. Only 36 were cases from overseas. South Korea's total caseload, including patients who have recovered, is now more than 40,000. In light of the alarming situation in the capital, the South Korean government on Wednesday said it will set up some 150 temporary testing facilities in Seoul and its surrounding areas to step up testing for the next 3 weeks. To encourage people to drop by, authorities say visitors can get tested anonymously. The only requirement is giving their cell phone number. Concerns are also rising over the uptick in the number of very sick patients and the number of deaths. The critically ill have increased by 23 to 172, and 8 additional deaths were reported on Thursday, bringing the national death toll to 564. This comes despite stronger social distancing measures that took effect on Tuesday. Level 2.5, the second highest measures for the capital area, and Level 2 for other regions. If the uptrend continues, experts warn new cases could hit 1,000 a day in the coming weeks or even days. In such a case, the government would consider raising social distancing measures to the highest possible tier, Level 3. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
U.S. President-elect Joe Biden has named retired Army General Lloyd Austin as his pick for Defense Secretary. If approved, Austin indicated that he would start rebuilding ties between the U.S. and its allies. Lee Kyung-eun has this report.
U.S. relations with its allies could improve once President-elect Joe Biden takes office in January. Retired 4-star Army General Lloyd Austin, who was named as Defense Secretary nominee on Wednesday, hinted at strengthening ties. His remarks were an apparent echo of Biden's stance on foreign policy, which aims to restore alliances that were weakened during the Trump administration.
And I fervently believe that, as you've said before, sir, that America is strongest when it works with its allies.
If approved, Austin will become the first African-American to lead the Pentagon. He highlighted the historic meaning of such an event, thanking those who've paved the way, including Henry O. Flipper, the first African-American to graduate from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. However, Austin is also aware of the concerns over his confirmation. U.S. law requires that potential Pentagon leaders to be out of the military at least 7 years before taking up the position. The rule seeks to enhance civilian control of the military. But having retired in 2016, Austin would need a congressional waiver to be officially confirmed. Austin addressed the issue, saying he fully respects the principle of civilian control of the military and that he wouldn't pose a threat to it.
I come to this new role as a civilian leader, and I look forward to surrounding myself with experienced, capable civilian appointees and career civil servants who will enable healthy civil-military relations grounded in meaningful civilian oversight.
According to Biden, Austin demonstrated exemplary leadership, character, and command during his service. If confirmed by the Senate eventually, the appointment will be a defining moment in U.S. political history. 이경은, 아리랑 뉴스.
who will enable
The National Statistics Agency has released data quantifying the struggles of newly married couples in South Korea. The report shows that in more households, both spouses are working, but still fewer of them are homeowners, and they're having fewer children. Kim Sung-min reports.
More South Korean newlyweds are getting loans, but they're finding it more difficult to buy a house. According to the Statistics Korea on Thursday, out of those who got married between 2015 and 2019, those who took out loans of between $90,000 and $180,000 increased by 2.2 percentage points on year in 2019. Some 85.8% of the newlyweds had loans of any size, up 0.7 percentage points. However, newlyweds' homeownership in 2019 dropped. 57.1% did not own a home in 2019, compared to 56.2% the year before. And this comes despite the increase in newly married couples with dual incomes. Almost half of the couples had both members working for a living, an increase of 1.6% from the previous year. Following lower homeownership and a higher percentage of dual-income couples, the percentage of newlyweds who had children dropped by 2.3 percentage points to 57.5%. Around 45% had one child, while some 42% had none. The study showed that couples where only one person works are more likely to have children, and those who own homes have more children. With more dual-income couples, the average household income for newlyweds jumped 3.7% to some $52,000. There were fewer newlyweds in 2019 compared to 2018, reflecting an ongoing downward trend in marriages. Kim Sung-min, Arirang News.
Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Kim Se-won, professor of economics at Ewha Women's University. Professor Kim, good afternoon, and thank you for coming on.
Good afternoon, Devin.
Well, according to the Korea Economic Research Institute, Korea's economic dynamism has declined since the 2000s at the fastest rate in the OECD. And this, it says, is a key reason for the decline in Korea's potential growth rate. Tell us about this data and what stands out to you.
According to recent report of Korean Economic Research Institute, which is a think tank of Federation of Korean Industries, or big companies, Korean economy's dynamics is seriously weakening compared to other OECD member countries. Actually, they ranked Korean economy at 30th out of 33 countries. As a main reason for declining economic dynamics, they point out a worsening potential economic growth path, which indicates the full capacity production economic growth. Particularly, Korean economy becomes more dependent on one or two key industries like memory chips and automobiles, and other industries are becoming less competitive in global markets.
Well, turning to the markets, stocks in New York closed lower overnight, especially the tech stocks on the NASDAQ. Still, we are coming off a remarkable run in U.S. stocks on hopes for those vaccines. What's the story in the global markets?
U.S. stock retreated yesterday as NASDAQ, where tech stocks are listed, lost almost 2% in a day. Dow Jones Industrial also fell by 0.4% yesterday. Investors are still optimistic Congress will pass another relief package to bolster economic recovery. But there is some disagreement on the size of package. Trump administration proposed $916 billion bill after Democrats rejected a previous bill. That quickly became a negative factor to U.S. markets.
Indeed, and with the decline overnight on Wall Street, South Korea's Kospi started out significantly lower this morning, but then recovered a bit as the afternoon began and then in the end closed lower. But some volatility should be expected with the futures options expiring now. Tell us about the local market today.
Domestic market performance is mixed between Kospi and Kosdaq today. Kospi lost by 0.3%, but Kosdaq gained by 0.9%. it looks that Kospi market was much affected by negative returns from U.S. market because there are lots of huge companies related to global economy and U.S. economy. Foreign investors sold in Kospi market, but Kospi market rise was led by domestic individual investors, huge purchase.
And now oil prices have risen significantly in recent weeks because of the vaccines and the expectation that there will be renewed economic activity. But at the same time, we see that U.S. oil inventories are up. Gold now has come down quite a bit from its highs. What's your outlook on these commodities?
Oil price slightly decreased by 0.2% yesterday. International oil market is under pressure from lots of positive and negative factors on oil supply and demand. In last week's OPEC Plus meeting, oil-producing countries decided to increase oil production, and U.S. oil reserve size increased due to the resurgence of pandemic. But at the same time, there is a positive factor for oil price, along with development of COVID vaccine. Gold price decreased by 1.9%, which is almost 2% in yesterday's market. Gold is kind of considered as a safe haven in investment. So the price is expected to go down further as vaccines rolled out from many different countries.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that all those predictions of gold going past 2,000 haven't panned out, at least not yet, and looking less likely to do so in the near future. But as for next year in the business environment, there's a survey of South Korean businesses, small and medium-sized businesses, and it finds that not even 1 in 10 thinks that next year, business-wise, will be better than this year. It seems this is because of the pandemic, of course, and also political uncertainty in the U.S. What's your outlook, Professor?
According to a survey of Federation of Small and Medium-Sized Corporations, over 3,000 small companies, business uncertainties are increasing inside and outside of countries. 8 corporations out of 10 said the purpose of next year's business would be maintenance of the status of quo. And almost 1 out of 10 has a plan for expanding their business next year. So this is something very disappointing and gloomy situation for small companies. For supporting these small and medium-sized businesses, another round of emergency relief funds, tax benefits to these small corporations, like more, I would say, forward-looking tax deduction, and more debt rollovers by banks can be considered.
All right, we'll see what kind of measures they come up with. Professor, thanks so much for sharing your insights today with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Now, in a presentation tonight, President Moon Jae-in will be laying out South Korea's vision for going carbon neutral by 2050. The event will take place at the Blue House from 7:35 p.m. and will be broadcast live. Moon will highlight Seoul's commitment to playing an active role in the international community fighting climate change. The tie he'll be wearing, the Blue House says, was made from recycled plastic waste. President Moon first mentioned the 2050 goal in a speech to Parliament back in October. Small companies in Korea starting next month will have to adopt the 52-hour workweek limit for their employees. And ahead of that, lawmakers have passed a bill to give them some more flexibility. Under a bill passed Wednesday, employees will be allowed to work more than 52 hours in a week, so long as the average is not more than 52 over a period of 6 months. The limit had been set at the stricter standard of 3 months. With the more flexible rules, small businesses will be able to have their employees work overtime as needed during their busy seasons. South Korean instant noodles are in high demand around the world in the pandemic as people look for inexpensive meals they can cook at home. According to the Korea International Trade Association, in the first 10 months of this year, exports of instant noodles amounted to $573 million, up more than 32% from a year earlier. The report says China is the biggest market for Korean instant noodles, followed by the United States and Hong Kong. And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.